Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Sweetbats, and today I'll be making Thorn, the lead singer and guitarist of the Hex Girls. While Draculaura would have been a much easier choice, I felt Operetta's slimmer face mold suited Thorn better, despite the musical note scars and tattoos. I actually dropped this doll after prepping her a long time ago, hence the forehead and chest marks. Time to clean her up and prep her again. Taking my nail polish remover with acetone, I dip a Q-tip in and began working on removing the smudge from when I dropped her, as well as removing the previously sprayed on Mr. Super Clear with the cotton ball. After sectioning off the two colors of hair, I get ready to cut it off. This was actually the first doll I filmed, and you could probably tell already given the terrible angles as I still figured out how to get a half-decent filming setup, and the fact that I grabbed scissors that were clearly not good enough to get the job done. That's more like it. Now we can cut the hair as close to the scalp as possible. The point of separating the colors was to keep them for a future project, but they're actually a lot gluier and grosser than anticipated, so I tossed them. Using my needle nose pliers, I began scraping the hair plugs from the inside, and this head actually ended up being one of the toughest heads I've ever worked on, and you can probably see me struggling to get even the tiniest bit of hair removed. I then used forceps to remove the gluey clumps of hair plugs from inside the head. When cleaning out your doll's head, always be aware of your surroundings and ensure the pile of gluey hair isn't stepped in by a nosy cat. Woo! Take a nice 4-way stretch fabric and rubber band and prepare the wig cap. I keep forgetting to put plastic wrap on first, so be sure to do that. Check out Mosquito's channel for more in-depth directions, which I'll link below. I draw in a guideline for where the hairline is and grab my silicone brush to paint on the glue within the designated parameters. I love how easy cleanup is with this brush. You can just peel the glue right off. Once the wig cap is dry, trim it and ensure it fits properly. Then we can move on to the wefts. And here's where it all went wrong. First off, I glued the first weft facing the wrong way, but was able to fix it in time. I stupidly glued down the opposite weft before clipping the first to section it off, which resulted in both sections combining. If you look closely, you can probably see the exact moment I realized how badly I messed up. I spent far too much time trying to separate the different sections before ripping them out and completely starting over. The video is about to go a little funky, and due to a combination of winding these all up by Halloween, the time it takes to resave a video, and having rodents chewing our internet cables so I don't have the leisure of uploading videos when I want, I'm just leaving it in. I'm so sorry. I ended up remaking some of the wefts by using red Mungyo pastels on the black yarn, trying to replicate Thorn's hair where it looks red where the light hits but black otherwise, and I was pleasantly surprised at the result. The reason this video came later, despite the filming starting before the others, is due to the rotary tool I had not working for this project, and I had to wait for this one to arrive. Carefully shape down the scars on her face and body, then smooth it out with sandpaper and nail buffer blocks. And here's the end result. If I'm being honest with myself, I'm not super pleased with it, but it was my first time, and the hair's going to be mostly covering it anyways. Take your doll outside, spray on 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear, and then you're ready to begin the face-up. Taking a watercolor pencil not much darker than the skin tone, I follow Operetta's eye mold to lay down the shape of the eyes. Then I move on to filling in the lower lip with a red pastel, making sure to clean up with my kneaded eraser. I also felt the smile was fitting for the character, so I worked to turn the corners of the lips up a bit with the watercolor pencil. Then, after building up a bit of color, I fill in the upper lip with black. It's clearly a super messy process, so keep your kneaded eraser close by. Once the lips are all filled in, I take some pastels slightly darker than the skin tone and contour her face. Since Thorn doesn't have any visible eyeshadow, I use the contour to enhance the eyes a bit, and also as light blushing for the ears. I didn't want to give them too much blushing as to retain the vampire, witch, gothic aesthetic the characters have. Then I use a white pastel to highlight the face, smudging it with the Q-tip as needed. I then lay down the shape for the iris and fill it in with the green pencil. Thorn is the only one of the Hex Girls that actually has colored eyes. The other two just have black eyes. Be sure to change the angle of your pencil to avoid drawing in unintentional areas. Once I'm satisfied with the eyes, I work on the brows. Thorn has some oddly shaped eyebrows, so I struggled with getting them to look right before resigning myself to using pencils to get the right shape, instead of shaping the pastels and drawing details with pencils. I'm not a fan of the drawn-on brows look, so needless to say I'm a bit disappointed in how these turned out. I build up a few more colors, give her a bit more of a hooded eye, add some lashes, and then take her outside for a spray of Mr. Super Clear to seal in the first layer. Take a black watercolor pencil and redraw the eyeliner, erasing any lines that are too harsh or thick. Because it's sealed, I don't have to worry about ruining all my previous work. I'm really not sure why I made it so dark on the first layer. All I really needed was a light guideline. Once I'm satisfied with the eyeliner, I take my black and red pencils and build up some color on the lips. I actually decided that the red on the lower lip was too bright, so I went over the entirety of the lips with the black pastel and ended up achieving the look I wanted. I move back to the eyes and build up the iris color. I absolutely love green eyes, so this was so much fun to work on. Taking a sharp white pencil, I fill in the scleras, but there isn't too much color payoff, unfortunately. I then work on darkening the brows. I really don't like how they look. I tried adding some pastels to soften the look a bit, and after cleaning it up, I'm really not sure if it helped at all. I then come in with both darker and lighter pencils to define the brows and draw individual hairs. I guess that helped a bit. Do the same on the other side, build up colors, then take her out for another spray. I did give her a bit more blushing before coming back to try and build up the whites of the eyes, and using the same white, I try and highlight under the brows, but again doesn't seem to be doing too much. Then I take a black pencil and draw in the pupil, starting with a small dot, then making it larger once I'm satisfied with the placement. I try and build up the black color, and though it's going on better than the white, it's still not as bold as I like. I add on small lower lashes, which I always find quite difficult to make look nice. I give her another spray and try my best to build up a few more colors with pencils before trying another technique. I take a small wet paintbrush and pull color directly from the watercolor pencils to fill in the areas that weren't taking color super well, like the whites of the eyes in particular. Be careful to not be too heavy-handed, since the brushes can and will go on way thicker than the pencils. I build up the iris as well before coming in with a lighter color for a bit of a highlight. Then I use the same technique with the black pencil to make the iris and eyeliner stand out. Use white acrylic paint for the catch lights, then give her a final coat of Mr. Super Clear. Bring her in after she's dry and brush Tamiya gloss on her lips and eyes, and then the face up is done. For the final detail, I make her a bat necklace out of Sculpey and paint it red, and once I get around to making clothes, I'll paint her nails, and with that, Thorn is finished. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with how Thorn came out. She's certainly the doll I struggled the most with, and honestly I think it shows. However, I'm glad I did it and got to practice a few techniques along the way that I can better implement in the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll stick around to see future customs. I'll see you next time. Take care.